Mining is one of the most lucrative professions in Star Citizen, second only to hauling, and for many this makes it their career of choice. But perhaps you're new to Star Citizen, or have never done any mining and want some insight into progressing through what is, at the time of recording, the most fleshed out profession in the game. In this video, we'll go through everything that there is to know about mining, from the equipment you need, how to mine, what to mine, and where. We will be working under the assumption that you only have a basic starter pack, so the Aurora or Mustang, and have no intent to pledge for any additional ship. We're going to break this video down into 3 main sections, each of which is split into 3 subsections. These splits will appear on the timeline for your benefit, and they're also timestamped in the description. So, grab your towel and come along to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Verse.
Quantum travel initiated.
When you first start out in Star Citizen, you will have nothing but the flight suit that you're wearing and a couple of thousand credits. This severely limits what you can do at first, so we would recommend running a couple of delivery missions just to get yourself up to around 18,000 credits. Next, head to Tammy & Sons in Lawville on Hurston and grab yourself a Greycat Pyro multi-tool and an Orbit mining attachment for around 800 credits combined. Whilst here, also grab yourself a Pembroke flight suit and helmet, which will set you back around 15,000 credits combined. In a pinch, you can instead go to a cargo deck at one of the geosynchronous stations and buy the multi-tool and MacFlex rucksack core for around 4,000 credits total. However, this gives you much less carrying capacity and doesn't afford any protection from the elements, which is important as the caves you're going to be visiting tend to be on hot environments. Equip your latest purchases and head to a cave, which are scattered across the various moons and planets. There are dozens of these, but the only ones you will find marked on the map are Kudra Ore on Daymar, a moon of Crusader, HDMO Dobbs on Aberdeen, a moon of Hurston, and HDMO Calthrop, which is on the planet Hurston. It should be noted that using these marked caves can be risky, as it gives pirates a marker for your location. A better option then is to find the unmarked caves. To do this, place yourself in orbit around one of the aforementioned bodies and look for investigation missions in your Mobiglass. This will give you the location of an unmarked cave, which will allow you to mine in peace. As an added bonus, you can also complete the mission for a few extra credits to boot. Once inside the cave, turn on your torch by hitting the relevant key, which is T by default, and take out your multi-tool by pressing the utility key, which is 4 by default. Now, carefully make your way through the cave, watching for any drops, and keeping an eye out for any rocks with a yellow marbling and streaks of colour. The ones you're looking for are hadonite, which are a light purple colour. It's super easy to mine and it's worth a great amount of credits. Dark purple is aphorite, which can be difficult to distinguish from hadonite. If you do find some, ignore it, as it holds little value. Green is Lovin, which is a royal pain to mine as it tends to be unstable, and it's worth less than aphorite currently. Once you've found what looks like a good rock, hit the right mouse button to go into ADS, and confirm on the right side of the hood what mineral it is. If it's hadonite, wait for the scan to complete, otherwise just move on. After the scan completes, you will see the energy bar on the left side changes to include a green and a red sector. The goal here is to build energy in the rock until it reaches the green sector, and then keep it there for a few seconds. Going into the red, however, will result in the rock exploding, which will destroy some of the gemstones and in the worst case will kill you. Hit the left mouse button to start the mining beam and slowly build power using the mouse wheel. Watch the energy meter on the left, and when the energy starts jumping up a little then back to 0, make a mental note of the power level. In the background footage, that's around 50%. You can also estimate this value by looking at the resistance on the right side of the hood. Now, build power all the way to the max whilst watching the energy level. As it approaches the green section, start to dial back the power, dropping it to that level that you made a note of earlier just as it passes into the green section. Now it's just a case of feathering the power up and down as needed to keep the energy level in the green. If it goes into the red, quickly drop the power. If the green section is almost full and it hits the red, turn off the mining beam with the left mouse button and back away quickly. Let the rock settle for a couple of seconds, then come back and have a go again, starting with the mining power at 0. Assuming all goes well, after a few seconds the green section will be filled and the rock will break, spilling a bunch of gemstones all over the cave floor. Hit the right click to come out of ADS, hold R to put the multi-tool away, and then simply pick up and stow your spoils. Now make your way through the rest of the cave until your backpack is full, before heading back to your ship. Head for the nearest sell point, for Daymar that's Port Olisar. For Aberdeen and Hurston you want to head for the admin office in Lorville, which can be found in the Metro Centre. Gemstones are sold at the normal trading consoles rather than the refinery consoles. And that covers hand mining. Up next, mining with the Grey Cat Rock. The Grey Cat Remote Ore Collector, or ROC, can be thought of as a giant hand mining tool strapped to 4 wheels. As such, its primary focus is to mine the larger gemstone rocks scattered across the planetary and lunar surfaces. There are 3 things you will need for this. The first is, naturally, a Grey Cat Rock, which can be purchased at New Deal in Lorville for 172,000 credits. The second is a ship to transport said rock. The loaner freelancer that everyone has currently will work for this, however CIG may remove this at any time. Additionally, getting the rock in a freelancer is, well, just watch. So with that in mind, we would recommend picking up a Cutlass Black, as it's an effective ship, can carry multiple rocks, if you play a bit of Tetris, which means you can bring a friend along, and they're relatively cheap. You can rent them for 28,000 credits per day in Lorville, Hurston, or Area 18 Arc Core. Alternatively, if you have the credits, you can buy one for 1.4 million at Teachers in Levski, Delamar. Finally, you will need a relevant environmental suit, as the rock's cab is not hermetically sealed. This can technically be omitted, as you'll never be out of your ship long enough to succumb to the elements. However, if you want to play it safe, then we would recommend obtaining the Pembroke armour from Tammy & Sons in Lorville for hot climates, or the Novikov armour from the Geosynchronous Station cargo decks for cold climates. Both will set you back around 15,000 credits. Once you have everything you need, spawn the carrier ship at an ASOP terminal, and then make your way to a location where you can spawn a ground vehicle. The majority of lunar mining outposts will have one of these, but there are also garages at New Babbage Microtech and Lorville Hurston. Now make your way to a celestial body with surface minerals. There are several, but our preference is Hurston's moon Ariel and the planet Microtech, as only Hadanite spawns here. The Crusader moon Daymar is also a good choice, as the ease of access to Port Olisar allows for quick selling. Once at your destination, fly close to the ground, about 500 meters should be enough, and switch to scanning mode, which is tab by default. Charge a ping by holding the right mouse button, and then release it to send. You should see several blue boxes appear around the ship. You want to look for the smaller boxes, as the larger ones tend to be mineral rocks rather than gemstones. If you don't find one, then simply keep flying forward and continue pinging. We need to make a strong warning here. Every time you ping, everyone within a 15km radius is going to see it, even if you are not on their radar. This makes you an easy target for pirates, so keep an eye on your radar and your annunciator panels. Once you find a promising POI, head towards it, pinging again if you lose track. As you get close, you should see a number of gemstone icons appear on your screen. Get close enough to one of the gemstones that you get an orange outline around them, and then hold the left mouse button to begin scanning them. If you went to Aerial or Microtech, you shouldn't find any Aphorite or Dolivine. However, if you do, then move on, as it's not worth the time unless you're in a rush. Once you have a good deposit, land close and check your radar and annunciator panels are clear before powering down the ship. Jump into the rock, start it up, get back out of the rock because you forgot to lower the ramp, again, and then make your way over to the mineral deposits. Switch to mining mode by pressing the relevant key, which is M by default, and aim at the deposit, then wait for the scan to finish. If you're in gather mode, switch to fracture by right-clicking the mouse, and ensure that your mining laser's power is set to 0 with the mouse wheel. After the scan completes, you will see that the energy bar on the left side changes to include a green and a red sector. The goal is to build energy in the rock until it reaches the green sector, and then keep it there for a few seconds. Going into the red, however, will overcharge the rock, and can result in the rock exploding, which will destroy some of the gems, send any survivors flying through the air, and in the worst case, kill you. Hit the left mouse button to start the mining beam and slowly build power using the mouse wheel. Watch the energy meter on the left, and when the energy level starts jumping up a little then back to 0, make a mental note of the power level. In the background footage, that's around 10%. You can also estimate this value by looking at the resistance on the right side of the HUD. Now, slowly build power whilst watching the energy level. As it approaches the green section, start to dial back the power, dropping it to that level you made a note of earlier just as it passes into the green section. Now it's just a case of feathering the power up and down as needed to keep the energy level in the green. If it goes into the red, quickly drop the power. If the fracture meter on the right hand side is almost full and the energy hits the red, turn off the mining beam with the left mouse button and back away quickly. Let the rock settle for a few seconds, then come back and go again with the laser power set to 0. You want the overcharge meter to be empty when the rock breaks. Assuming all goes well, after a few seconds the fracture meter will be filled and the rock will break, spilling a ton of gemstones all over the floor. Hit right click to switch to the gathering beam and aim at the gemstones to slurp them up. You will need to keep the beam over the gemstones for a few seconds before the tractor beam will latch onto them, so be patient. Once you've collected your spoils, proceed to crack any more rocks present. If your rock is full, you have two options. The first is to simply load up and fly to the nearest outpost to sell, and this is the safest option and the one we would recommend. The second option is to go to the back of your rock, pick up the gemstones and place them in your ship before proceeding to continue mining. This is risky, as the longer that you're out, the more time pirates have to find you. Additionally, server disconnects, aka 30k errors, are still common enough that you risk losing a large haul. Choice is yours. And with that, that's the rock mining covered. Next up, mining with a ship. There are two options when it comes to ship-based mining, being solo or in a group, and which you choose determines which ship you require. For those going it solo, you're going to want the Misk Prospector, which can be purchased for a little over 2 million credits at New Deal in Lorville, Hurston, or Teacher's Ship Shop in Levski, Delamar. Alternatively, you can rent a Prospector for around 41,000 credits per day in Lorville, Hurston, or Area 18, Artcore. If you want to go down the group route and mine the larger asteroids, then you'll want the Argo Mole, which costs just over 5 million to buy from New Deal in Lorville, or around 102,000 per day to rent. It should be noted that 4 separate prospectors has more money-making potential than 4 players in a single mole, but the initial outlay will be higher and you won't be able to mine the larger asteroids. It's your call. With that said, everything from here on out is the same regardless of your choice. Before we get into mining, we need to go over the two components which are critical to mining heads and consumables. Different mining heads have different capabilities, with some producing more power whilst others increase the stability of the rocks that you're mining. The stock mining head won't be able to crack every rock you come across, especially quantanium, so your first goal should always be to make enough credits to buy the Helix mining head, which can be purchased from any mining shop as well as any dumper's depot. For the Prospector, this is the size 1 variant and costs just around 100,000 credits. Luckily, 100k isn't a huge ask for a mining vessel, and you will comfortably make this within a couple of hours. Of course, if you're in a fully crewed mole, then you're going to need 3 of the size 2 mining heads, costing 300,000 in total. You may be tempted to buy one of the other heads earlier on for a lot less, but the costs far weigh out the benefit in our experience. The other thing to consider is the consumables. Each consumable has a fixed number of charges, and how many you can have equipped at any given time varies by the mining head, with some mining heads being unable to use consumables at all. There are 8 in total, but the ones you want to consider are the Torpid and the Rime. The Torpid has 3 charges, and will significantly reduce the resistance of any rock you are mining, and is especially useful for larger or tougher rocks such as quantanium deposits. The Rime has 5 charges, and this is your lifeline, instantly dropping the energy level in a rock by half. When things go south, this can be the difference between a successful haul or death. An honourable mention is the Brunch consumable, which helps stabilise any fluctuations in a rock's energy. We personally don't use them, but they can be helpful for particularly fickle deposits. Now that we've covered all that, onto where to mine. Ship-based mining differs from handheld or ground vehicle in that you're not focused on gemstones, rather raw minerals. There are 16 in total, of varying values, which can be seen on the screen now, but the ones you need to remember are quantanium, borace, agricium, and anything ending in ite or ITE. As a rule, focus on those, but titanium, diamond, gold and copper are great secondaries. Every moon and asteroid is a veritable gold mine, and you can realistically make money by mining basically anywhere. However, some are more profitable than others, of course. Our personal suggestions for lunar mining are as follows. Hurston's Moon area, which is a great location, and here your focus is on bexolite, which is the most valuable non-volatile mineral. You'll also find hephaestonite here, which is a great secondary. The moons of Crusader are also a great choice, due to their good minerals and close proximity to a sell point in Port Olisar. Selin and Daymar are the standouts here. Selin doesn't have many types of minerals, but it's a great location to find taranite and quantanium. Keep in mind, however, that Selin is the location of Outpost Korea, which is a hotbed of criminals looking to erase their criminal record. Daymar is good for taranite, agricium, and quantanium. Lyria, a moon of Arc Core, is also a good option, and here you want to mine bexolite, taranite, and agricium. Clio, a moon of Microtech, is good for those seeking taranite, quantanium, laranite, and agricium, but do keep in mind that the weather on Clio can be quite aggressive. For those wishing to remain in space, you have a few options here too. The Lagrangian points of each planet, as well as the orbit of Delamar, are large asteroid fields, and are good for borates and laranite. These tend to be safer, as it's harder to find someone out in the middle of the black than it is on a planet, but they're not as profitable. The rings of Yella are a good source of quantanium asteroids, however do keep in mind that this is also where Grimhex is located, and there exists no greater hive of scum and villainy. Head for the location of your choice. If it's a moon, fly close to the ground, around 500 meters will be enough, and switch to scanning mode, which is tab by default. Charge a ping by holding the right mouse button and then release it to send. You should see several blue boxes appear around your ship. You want to look for the larger boxes, as the smaller ones tend to be gemstone rocks rather than minerals. If you don't find one, simply keep flying forward and continue pinging. We need to make a strong warning here. Every time you ping, everyone within a 15-kilometer radius will see it, even if you're not on their radar. This makes you an easy target for pirates, so keep an eye on your radar and annunciator panels. Once you find a promising POI, head towards it, pinging again if you lose track. As you get close, you should see boulder icons appear on your screen. Get close enough to one of the boulders that they get an orange outline, and hold the left mouse button to begin scanning them. On the right side of the hood, you will begin to see the minerals contained within the rock. If there's nothing of value, remember quantanium, borates, agricium, and anything ending in ite, then move on. If it is good, then take a look at the numbers which appear below each mineral. The left number is the percentage of the rock which consists of this mineral. If this value is lower than 5%, we would suggest moving on, although as low as 2.5% can be worth it. In this footage, there is taranite in this rock, but it's only 1%, so it's not worth the time. There is an exception, which is hephaestonite, which you should ignore if it's below 10 to 15%. If all is good, then maneuver yourself to around 100 meters from the deposit and switch to mining mode by pressing the relevant key, which is M by default. Aim the mining laser at the deposit and then wait for the scan to finish. If you're in gather mode, switch to the fracture mode by right-clicking the mouse and ensure that your mining laser's power is set to 0 with the mouse wheel. After the scan completes, you will see that the energy bar on the left side changes to include a green and red sector. The goal is to build energy in the rock until it reaches the green sector, and then keep it there for a few seconds. Going into the red, however, will overcharge the deposit, which can result in the rock exploding, which will destroy some of the minerals, and in the worst case, will kill you. Hit the left mouse button to start the mining beam, and slowly build power using the mouse wheel. Watch the energy meter on the left, and when the energy level starts jumping up a little and then back to 0, make a mental note of the power level. In the background footage, that's around 40%. You can also estimate this value by looking at the resistance on the left side of the hood. You may find that the rock's energy doesn't increase, even when the power is at max. This is especially common if you're in a prospector which doesn't yet have a helix mining head, or you're mining quantanium or large asteroids. There are 4 things that you can try here. The first is to simply move closer to the deposit. If this doesn't work, then overclock the mining laser. Still no dice? Slowly strafing left and right can help build up energy in the rock. The final option is to use a torpid consumable. which can be done by holding the left Alt and pressing either 1, 2, 3 or 4, depending on the slot it's equipped in. If this still doesn't get the energy climbing, then the rock is too big to mine without additional ships, so move on. Assuming that the energy is going up, gently build the power whilst watching the energy level. As it approaches the green section, start to dial back the power, dropping it to that level that you made a note of earlier just as it passes into the green section. Once in the green, it's just a case of feathering the power up and down as needed to keep the energy level in the green. If it goes into the red, quickly drop the power. If the fracture meter on the right hand side is almost full and the energy hits the red, use a rhyme consumable if you have one, which is done by holding left Alt and pressing either 1, 2, 3 or 4 depending on the slot it's equipped in. If you don't have a rhyme, then turn off the mining beam with the left mouse button and back away quickly. Let the rock settle for a few seconds, then come back and go again with the laser power set to 0. You want the overcharge meter to be empty when the rock breaks. Assuming all goes well, after a few seconds the fracture meter will be filled, the mining laser will automatically shut off, and the rock will break into several smaller rocks. Each of these smaller rocks needs to be scanned again by aiming at them, and will each contain different concentrations of minerals from the original. Any which say inert material are, essentially, just a block of dirt, and they should be ignored. If you have a rock with minerals inside, however, then look at the colour it's outlined with. If a rock is highlighted orange, then it can be further broken down via the fracture mode, but some will be purple. These purple rocks are ready to be slurped up, which is done by switching to the extraction mode with the right mouse button. If this is a quantanium deposit, such as the one in the B-roll, do not extract it until you finish breaking down every single rock. Please also make sure to watch the section dedicated to volatiles that's coming up before you proceed. As a general rule, you want to ignore any rocks which have a low percentage of minerals. For example, if you have a rock which shows 20% laranite, 30% copper, then 50% is just dirt, which wastes space in your hold, seriously cutting into your profits. For that reason, you want to focus on gathering from the chunks with a large percentage of valuable minerals first, and ignore anything with a low concentration. Work your way through the rest of the deposit, gathering from any rocks with a high percentage of minerals, and leaving the rest. If your hold still isn't full, which can be seen in the mining UI on the right hand side, then simply repeat the process as before. If it is full, or your hold contains quantanium, then make your way to the nearest refinery terminal and make yourself some money. We need to talk about quantanium specifically. This is the first volatile mineable in Star Citizen, and it's more than happy to go off with an earth-shattering kaboom and ruin your day. There are two things to consider with quantanium. The first is that it will only remain stable for around 20 minutes in your hold before it spontaneously combusts, most likely taking you with it. The second is that every time you take a knock, whether that be from gunfire or just landing hard, the timer takes a drop. You can see the state of any quantanium in your hold by looking at the warning light in your cockpit. This will be off normally, and will remain off until you have around 14 minutes left on the timer, at which point the light will begin to blink yellow. When you have 3 minutes left, the light will begin to flash faster, and it will turn orange. Unless you're inches from a landing pad, it may be pertinent to jettison the cargo at this stage by holding the left Alt key and pressing J. If the light turns red, then you have less than 2 minutes before you and your ship become space dust. Even if you're about to land, don't take the chance, just jettison the cargo. And that covers just about everything there is to know about mining. This took a lot of time to make, not just recording, editing, but earning the credits in-game to actually buy all of this stuff as well, so please do make sure to share, like, subscribe, all that usual malarkey. Do note, by the way, that our suggestions are just that, they're suggestions, and some people will have a different opinion on what or where to mine. Do also keep in mind that the minerals available on each planet or moon are going to change over time. As an example, Cleo never used to have taranite, it had bexelite, and it didn't have any quantanium, so we would always recommend checking the latest information during each patch. Please do comment down below with any questions you may have or anything that we may have missed, and with that, we'll thank you for watching, we'll catch y'all next time.